From Portland, Oregon, as you already heard, the smartest man on the radio, Tom Hartman. I'll give you a little preview of tomorrow. I'll give you a little preview of tomorrow's program because I had this amazing experience Friday night, and there's even a local tie into this. Friday night, Karl Rove came to Portland, and where I live. And there was, first of all, on Tuesday, by Tuesday, everybody was trying to figure out where he was going to speak because it was like this tightly held secret. And so I went to the website for the Republican Party, and I gave him 120 bucks and signed up to go see Karl Rove, and got the address and gave it to our local blogger, and all of a sudden it was everywhere. And so, you know, a lot of people kind of showed up and said hi. Yeah, exactly. But that's, you know, it was really an interesting experience. And he got up and he started out by telling the story about how he was Norwegian, and I'm like, my grandfather and grandmother on my father's side were Norwegian immigrants, and I'm going, oh no. And then he's telling this story about Sparks, Nevada, and I'm thinking, I've been there, and by coincidence, a good friend of mine, Kathy, who's right over here at the bottom of the stairs, Kathy and her husband Anil and Louise and I have been friends for that many years. And in 1980 or 1970, Kathy and I hitchhiked across the United States. We all lived in Michigan. She and I hitchhiked from Michigan to San Francisco, and we got busted in Sparks, Nevada, and got walked with the cop car following us all the way out to the edge of town, where they parked us at this light pole and said, you got to hitchhike here because you can't be in town. And there were people who had written on this light pole, like, we've been here 38 hours, you know, we've been here 4 days, you know, all this. And so I'm chanting Nam Mel Rikikio, and we got a ride. It was just this wild story. So anyway, Karl Rove was telling a story about Sparks, and I'm thinking about my friend Kathy, and then he goes into, of course, the strong point of the Democratic Party, which is the fact that the Democratic Party consistently brought us out of the Republican Great Depression, you know, brought us peace and prosperity over and over and over again. I mean, the Democratic Party, they're good at this, right? They know how to do this. So, of course, he goes after their strength. I mean, this is the Republican strategy. So he's attacking the Democrats on economics. And then, of course, you know, the Democrats want to end the war, and so he's going after the Democrats as surrender monkeys. And that's not the story, though. The story is that I went home, and by the way, I told you originally that I paid for the ticket. After I talked about it on the air, that I had gotten the ticket, and by the way, here's the address where Carl's going to be, I get a call from the Republican Party guy, and he says, we can't have you sitting with the Republican donors. It wouldn't be a good idea. And so we're going to give you a press pass and a VIP treatment. And we're going to give you your money back. And so I thought, so my money's not going to end up with the Republican. Okay. Fine. Yeah, well, it was interesting because he was really a nice guy. He was like one of these poor schlubs who's got a job. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, the guy has a job, you know? And he just wants to do his job. And I felt sorry for him, so I said, okay, I won't make any trouble. I'll show up as the press. You know how the Republicans have flipped the stars upside down on the 3 stars above the elephant? At this event, Karl Rove had to stand in front of an elephant with the stars flipped right side up. They flipped them upside down right after Bush got the nomination in 2000. And they've been upside. So later on, afterwards, I went up to the head of the Republican Party there, and I said, how come the stars are right side up? Because the Republicans are supposed to be upside down. And he said, oh, somebody in our party, one of our larger donors, got really upset and said that's the sign of Satan and Hitler, and so we've got to flip them right side up. So we flipped it right side up. So Karl Rove had to speak, he couldn't speak in front of his satanic symbols. He had to speak in front of, you know. So anyhow, I get home, and I told Louise about it. We went to bed and we went to sleep, and I had these wild nightmares all night. And I don't you know, I can probably count on one hand all the times in my whole entire life I've actually had, you know, wake up in the middle of the night with cold sweats, nightmares, and a couple of them were when I was working in Africa in war zones and things. And I woke up and it was just these god-awful, I mean, like, mass death and destruction, vivid nightmares. And I woke up in the morning and I said, boy, this is, you know, like we're going through, you know, just Air America's going through changes and all these radios. I must really be internalizing a lot of this anxiety about talk radio. And Louise was like, no, you were in a room with Carl Rowe. and I was talking with Mike Malone about this last night, or this morning, or whenever it was. Yeah, it was. And he was like, yeah, you know, if you could go back in time and sit in a room with Goebbels for 5 minutes, I mean, you know, there's evil out there, and we started talking about the banality of evil, and it's just, so anyhow, the final good news, and then I'll move on, or get out of here. The final good news is that there were about 50 protesters out on the street, there were about 60 or 70 cops, there were about 25 of us from the press corps, and they could only get, in Oregon, in the entire state of Oregon and southern Washington, because we're right up on the border, they could only get 109 people to pay $60 a piece to see Carl Rowe. Barack Obama shows up someplace, 10,000 people show up. I mean, you know, even John Edwards, Hillary Clinton, doesn't matter. You know? So the tide is turning, it's moving our way, and you are the ones who are making it happen. Thanks so much for being here. Ted, you're it. See you later.